Welcome back to Stay Tuned. I'm Tony Angelo. This is my YouTube channel, and today we're going to talk about the biggest and the best things, right? This is America. We're obsessed with like the best, or the fastest, or the gnarliest, and what we have today is something that at its time was the quickest motorcycle in the world. All right, I scooped this thing up. Here it is. It is a 1983 Suzuki GS1100 E. This thing is a monster. Okay, just to give you an idea, there have been like a couple motorcycles throughout history, like the Vincent Black Shadow that like turned the world on end, and then later on it was like the Z1 from Kawasaki, and then after that pretty much nothing super gnarly until this thing came out. It makes 108 horsepower. This one makes more, but it came with 108 horsepower, and it was the first motorcycle, according to Cycle World, to run a 10-second quarter mile. And 10 seconds is fast, and this thing's been out for almost 40 years. So you can imagine what a gnarly, absolute street monster this thing was. So these are called, like, back in the day, you called this like a street bike, or like a muscle bike even. So it really like is kind of vibes with everything I love. Giant, big, torquey motor, makes big power everywhere. Obviously, the motor's exposed, it's not full frame. This is 83, so it's like very early on. But what's so cool is this was like, Suzuki made this engine, it's called TSCC. Essentially, it's like narrow valve angle and 16 valves. And this motor is so burly that they used it forever. They used it in the GSXR, the first generation, when that came out, until they made it water cooled. Then they used it in the Bandit, they used it in the Katana, they used it forever. They used it until I think 2005. And it was still hanging around and kicking butt. So this thing is killer. I bought this bike. Whenever you're ready. This thing is unprofessional as hell. I bought this thing early 2020. I just wanted to get my hands on a bike and hadn't had one in a really long time. And this thing is a really nice example of an 83 GS1100 E. It has a ton of hot parts on it. It's got like a Dyna ignition, Excel coils, these Mikuni flat slide carburetors. It's got a top end oiling kit. I can see evidence of some stuff in the motor, like a manual chain tensioner, full exhaust. It's got shocks. It's got braided lines. It is awesome, and it has 15,000 miles on it. And it's just a really, really nice version of this bike. And because I'm a complete idiot, what I did was wrote it once, shoved it in the back room, and went about my business, because I've got tons of stuff to shoot and buy and look at and research every day. And because it was in our tiny back room in this tiny shop, I literally couldn't get it out, and it hasn't fired up in over a year. So today, we're gonna pull it apart, freshen it up, clean it up, get it fired up, and hopefully take it out on the road. And we're just gonna see if the fastest bike in the world, excuse me, the quickest bike in the world, Freiburg will get mad if I said that wrong, because quick is ET, right? We're going to see if the quickest bike in the world from 1983 still jams pretty hard. I bet it does. I'm going to pull off these cone filters. One thing people love to do on motorcycles is stick on these cone filters. Now, I've been a stupid kid and done it too. Let me tell you, if you have a regular CV carb, that's constant velocity, which is like what all the old Japanese bikes had on them, most of the production stuff, and you put that this filter on it, it's really going to be finicky to get it to work right. A lot of times it's better to just leave the air box and put like a panel filter in there. It's just the way it is. If you want to run race looking little pod filters, get yourself some proper flat slide carburetors. All right, I got the pods off. These are the fuel feeds. So all I've got to do now, I think, is disconnect the throttle cables. And we will disconnect the clamps on the throats of the carb and get this thing off. All right, so these are just really clamped in here, believe it or not. Once these are loose enough, I'll just rock them out. There. Nice. All right, now we got some access. So I'm gonna pull these throttle cables off. I got the carburetor sitting out here.
there's a push-pull cable. I just got this one off. Get out the way. That was the pull cable, or the push cable. This is the other one. It's going to be probably even a little trickier. So I was able to take out the slack at the throttle handle. So I can pull this out, the cable, and then I'll be able to get this thing off. There she goes. Boom. Ta-da! That's why they call them flat slides, because they have flat, see it from the side, slides in there. Those are the needles, and those are the main jets. Alright, so here is the set. It's my Cooney flat slides. Like I said, this is pretty proper hardcore street and racing equipment. I just didn't drain. It's really easy to drain the bowls in these things. There's these little nuts on each one, and then the bowl just drains out if you're going to store it for the winter. I forgot to do that, so now we're going to just take it apart. All I'm really hoping to do is take the bowls off, clean them out, spray down the floats, and I'll just blast air through each circuit, put it back together, fire this thing up. Alright, I am not a motorcycle expert by any means. I've done a few things. I've had a few bikes. At one point, I rode a Honda 919 across the country with my buddies like 10 years ago, 11 years ago. It was one of the most fun times ever. We rode 13 of us, a lot of us drift racer dudes or bros, across the country. We started at the Jersey Shore, rode to Gettysburg, then mid-Ohio, then through like Deadwood, which was awesome, the Black Hills and all that stuff, and then over to Yellowstone, out to Santa Cruz with all the weirdos, and then down the coast. It was monstrously epic. But yeah, when we were, I don't know, I guess I've always had this style of bike, you know, Japanese, universal Japanese bikes. I've had CB350s, CB550s, GS550s. Eventually I bought a brand new Ninja 636 in 2006 until I got in way too much trouble with it, had to sell it. But I've had a lot of bikes. Then last thing I had before this, years ago before my kids were born, I had a 2005 Triumph British Speed Triple 1050, which was about the funnest bike I've ever had. That was good at everything. But yeah, I scooped this thing up about a year and a half ago. I haven't done much riding with it, but I just want to get it back on the road. It may actually be available for sale soon. I like to build stuff and, you know, drive or ride it, and this thing is just kind of done. I don't really want to mess with it. It's just got so much cool stuff on it. It's already feels really dialed in, so keep an eye out on my social media, Tangelo96 on Instagram. Maybe you can buy this thing. It is also one of the nicest things I've ever owned. It's got 15,000 miles. It feels almost too nice for me. Stuff I have should look like, maybe like this a little bit more. Exploding asbestos and garbage everywhere. All of this stuff is soft aluminum, and it has usually Phillips head screws in it. You want to make sure you get a nice sharp Phillips head. So the last thing you want to do is be trying to grab these with pliers or drill them out. So start with a nice sharp screwdriver that you like and avoid the problems. And I actually think there are several different tapers. There might be a better taper for this, but if you get the right sharp one, it'll come out. And then I just wipe out a little bin here and I'll keep everything in there. I guess with these balance tubes, let me see if I can get one off. I guess we'll just take them all off. We'll get our first look at these things. There she is. All right, last one. Okay, not too bad in here. You see there's a little bit of grime from the gas sitting in the bottom of the bowls and stuff. Just really being better safe than sorry. So everything I've seen looks like anything that wasn't sitting in gas is very clean. I was gonna pull the floats off, but we were having some trouble getting the pins out. I tried 2 internet secrets I found. One being an auto punch, one being some flush cuts. Neither one really wanted to do it. I don't want to mess with it. Like I said, it all looks super clean. I'm just going to pull the main jets, clean all the surfaces, clean the bowls out, and blast air through all the circuits, and I think we're going to be fine. Now I'm just going to let the main jets soak. Spray a little bit of sauce in the bowls, and then I'll hit a little bit everywhere. You can see all the crap coming right off it. Make sure the flanges are clean. I might do a little brass brush on the flanges that didn't come clean. And then just blow it all out and put it back together. So I got a razor blade. I'm taking just a little bit of this crud off of the flanges and the body of the carburetor. And we'll listen to this thing sing soon. Seems like everybody's favorite muscle bike of the 80s was the fastest bike when they came out. It's like the thing I think have changed a lot. I believe in my heart this was the fastest bike in the world when it came out. I also think it might be one of the first or the first bike that ran a 10-second quarter mile from the factory. But you know, a lot of fast bikes, a lot of, like, everyone was like outdoing themselves over and over and over. So it's part of the fun of motorcycling. Dudes get wild, companies get crazy. All right, let's blow this out and put it together. It's got a rubber tip on here which helps it to seal the different circuits. And we're just gonna give everything a little blast. Alright, usually I look around for any missing parts, and tighten it up, throw it back together. So installation is just the reverse of the removal. So I'll just put it back in. So I managed to get the harder cable onto the throttle wheel. I'm just going to snug this up and I'll try to get the second cable on. Alright, so throttle cables have adjustments on both ends. I'm going to need to use, I'm loosening it up at the actual throttle here. So I have enough slack to get this back to the bracket. And then I will get it ballparked and we can actually adjust it before we bolt everything on. Make sure it all works. That's done. Now we can mount these things back in place on the motor and spin all the clamps where they need to be before it's impossible to get to them. And then we'll slam them in and put those drains back on them too. Nice. So I got the throttle working really nice. It's always important. Bikes are like all about feel, and it's this rad little high revving, powerful 4-cylinder underneath you. I want it to be crisp and it's working just right. Feels awesome. And we were digging around this bike. Denver, you're gonna see him here and there.
What's up?
Right? We're like, oh cool, it's got this cool ignition. What's this box for? This one here. Guess what? Boom. Neon tubes. It's hot fire. Streets is hot, baby. Alright, we're changing the battery too, because it's dead as a door now. Pull that thing out. So we've dug in now. We found the neon. The street lights are rolling. Show off them carburetors. And up in here, under the fairing. But he doesn't have them lit up to a switch. He's got them just with this little booty connector. So I guess we'll have to pop the seat off whenever we want to get super stunt mode. Last pod filter's on. I'm gonna toss the tank on and get this thing fired up. Couple gallons of today's $5 a gallon premium, the good stuff. Do. Get all the junk off the thing. So on this petcock, which is a stock one, a lot of guys will run a racing one when we put these carbs on. There's a prime switch. When you flip it to prime, it just lets it flow. It's going to fill the carbs up. If not, you have to wait for vacuum to open it up. It would take forever cranking. So they give you a prime switch. And I'll just level the bike out. Alright, so I'm going to turn it to on, which should hopefully, once it gets running, open it up with the vacuum from the motor. Fresh battery, carb should be good. We're in neutral. Let's see what it does. Okay, that didn't take long. Couple PSI oil pressure. Try a little choke. Right up. I'm gonna put on some of these Grease Monkey gloves I've got. Real quick shout out to Grease Monkey Gloves, big sponsor of the channel. They are awesome. You can get them at Autozone and Home Depot, and you can actually use them for motorcycling, or at least I'm gonna do it because they got crazy impact protection.
back on the ride. This thing absolutely pulls like a freight train. It is wild. Turns out that the fastest bike in the world from 1983 is still pretty terrifying. It's really mind-blowing. And it like pulls like a freight train, but as my man Lucky would say, it handles like a Porsche. I mean, it is not my favorite around turns. It's not a modern bike by any means, but it is one sweet piece. 1983 Suzuki GS1100 E. They're awesome. All right, that's it for this episode of Stay Tuned. If you liked it, please click like and subscribe. We've got tons more random, awesome car stuff coming up. Look, point over there. There's that thing. Point up a little bit. There's another thing. Point out there. Out there. There's that guy. Some other stuff. It's all coming soon. All right.